a couple things. I attended the Board of Education budget workshop yesterday, and just wanted to update the board. Obviously, we'll be seeing it and go through it with their presentation, but just a couple of things that they are dealing with in terms of cost drivers with their budget. Their ESSER grant that was given by the federal government in here he is during COVID is expiring, so they're trying to navigate the loss of those supports in their budget. They feel that they still need a lot of the social emotional help that supported them with those grants, and so that's a driver on their budget this year, as well as a gigantic healthcare increase. You know, that I think everybody is familiar with our own budgets. So I just wanted to give that update. And then the other thing is a plug for the library. I also attended their Board of Trustees meeting. And I just wanted to plug, they are having a raffle. The raffle will be drawn on Valentine's Day. They have some wonderful prizes of local, their prizes are gift cards to local businesses. So go ahead and buy your tickets, and that drawing is at 2 o'clock on Valentine's Day. That's it for me.
Thank you, Katie. And Finance Committee members.
I just had a question for Katie. Going back to the Board of Education, did approximate numbers, the grants that we're talking about and the healthcare increase?
Oh,
So the
Just round
grants,
numbers.
the grants was about 258,000 for 4 positions. And I believe the health insurance was over 770
Increase.
increase.
yeah. So we have noticed in the past like 2% increases.
Right.
It's self-funded, and the past couple years have been higher, as we've all noticed. And in terms of the ESSER grants, those positions, again, were to support social, emotional, and academic deficits that kids experienced post-COVID.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Katie? Any other Finance Committee member comments? Sorry I'm late. I just want to say wish everyone a happy and a healthy new year.
Where'd he go? Lost him.
Taking notes. Thank you, Jane, for getting this started. We have our first selectwoman. Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah, good morning and happy new year to everybody.
Good morning.
I handed out a one pager to everybody that was representing the Board of Selectmen at our last meeting last week. And it just highlights kind of the status of some of all of the town grant funded projects. And just to give you an idea of kind of where we are in the timeline for these projects, and some of them, because they're grant funded, there was some matching appropriations that are going to be required for these. That's part of that running total that you get on the fund balance, you know, from Stacy. But I thought this might be helpful just to see generally where they are in terms of the project itself and when construction is expected. So we're going to have a lot going on, obviously in town in 2024 and 2025, which is great. We will have to do an appropriation, the 2 largest. So if you look at the estimated additional funding required, that's where the appropriation would be. The emergency shelter generator project, that's one we've been working on the last 12 months. And so, you know, when things finalize, there will have to be an appropriation to cover that. And then the emergency operations firehouse project. So the good thing is both of those received federal grants. And when we accepted those a year ago, we knew we were going to have to match the funding for those projects. The one that kind of comes up more urgent soon that we'll probably see coming both boards is the steep grant for the gym floor that came up as it was something that actually wasn't even in CIP. It was supposed to be a repair. We went in to repair it and discovered there was a whole remediation that was required. We found that out this summer. The board applied for a steep grant and we were awarded that $401,000, but there's a 25% match that the state requires for that. That'll be $100,000. So I thought this gives you a little better idea about timeline as we work through this and gives some background to some of the numbers you always see in that running tally for potential future appropriations that Stacy gives to you. And that's it.
Or any questions for the first selectwoman?
I have one totally off. I everything you just said.
Well, go ahead, Katie.
Uh-oh.
That's something to do with the Board of Finance.
It does, it does.
Yeah.
So the signs, there were also through ARPA funding. I remember being on that committee and
Yeah.
having those go up. Are there any going up north? I thought that was a priority. I was just on that road today.
I don't have the list. I mean, there was definitely signs that were supposed to be going at the circle and the gateway coming in from Durham. So I don't know if they haven't, there's none that's been placed up there yet?
No.
Okay, I'll find out what the status is. I know they started putting them out in December. I'll find out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're ordered, we only have half
Yeah,
of what we
they're
can
ordered,
Oh,
but we only have half.
Oh, nice. So probably wait till the ground
Hopefully
bus.
that's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the First Selectwoman? Thank you, Peggy. Citizens' comments. People from the public would like to speak. Name and
We
address.
do have someone who wishes to speak.
We're gonna go with the person who's here first, and then we'll go, Gene, to the person who's virtual, okay?
Okay.
Name and address.
My name is Linda Maniati, and I live at 18 Lenore Drive in Madison. And I'm here, I did speak also at the police commissioners meeting as well, but I thought it was really important for the Board of Finance to know what people are thinking. And I've lived in town for 15 years with my son, who's now 17, and we love the town. But what's really concerned me lately is the idea of these thefts going on of cars and break-ins. And I think that it's something that we have to, I think it's important that you know that, and I know I'm not the only one, feel strongly that if we could do something to help make this less of a common occurrence. And just so you know, on Lenore Drive, one day I was letting my dog out between 10 and 11 p.m. And it was a slightly rainy night, when I'm told from the police department that it's the perfect night for them to steal a car. And I had a guest over and their car was parked in the driveway. I didn't think it was an issue. So I'm letting my dog out and I see someone by my mailbox. He doesn't have a flashlight, he doesn't have a dog, he's not walking, he's lingering by my mailbox. I said, "Excuse me, do I know you?" And he said, "Oh, I'm Eddie." So I go through my mind, Eddie, there's no Eddies on our street. Because I'm a dog person, I know a lot of people walk up and down the street. So I get my dog in, I call the police, they come, they send 2 police officers, 2 different cars, because they thought it was a good chance that he was trying to steal the car that was in the driveway. And they wanted to send 2 to try to make this stop. Well, we weren't able to catch Eddie, but, you know, being on Lenore Drive, a cul-de-sac, you know, 4 miles north, it's concerning when something that happens in our neighborhood. And I know that I'm not the only one on Lenore Drive who had an issue. Our neighbor at the very end had a similar issue. Someone broke into their car. Now, what I find amazing is normally we don't have cars outside on our street. They're all in the garages. But how is it that they know the night that I had a car in my driveway, she had a car in her driveway? So I think it's, you know, wonderful that we've hired 2 police officers, I think, in the last few years. But I worry and I wonder if the number is net down from the high, maybe we should try to do something to help support our police so that we can make what is a wonderful town just a little bit safer.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Linda, for your input. Is anybody else from the public who would like to speak? Gene, you have someone there?
Yes, we have 4 people with hands raised. The first is Jim Ferenczi.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, Jim, name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Jim Parenzi, and we live at 47 Seaview. And as the Board of Finance may remember, I popped onto the meeting back in December to indicate that a group of us would be back at this meeting to talk more about the topic that Linda just talked about. So let me just make a few additional comments on top of what Linda just said. But first of all, can I just ask for the record, how many people are on this Zoom? Because we can't see that from the citizen standpoint.
17.
Okay, thank you. So again, I want to pick up on the same topic that Linda was talking about, which is the rash of car thefts and car break-ins. And I know one of the key agenda items that is on the Board of Finance Committee's agenda tonight is to talk about a special appropriation for security cameras. And this was something that we talked at length with the Board of Selectmen about back in December, and the Board of Police Commissioners. And that's an important first step, which I'll get to in a second. But in terms of background, just in terms of context, background, et cetera, there's been a group of us, and Linda alluded to this, that have met with various town officials dating back to 2021 in the summer about this ongoing problem that's now been, kind of festering in our town for at least 3 years. And numerous concerned citizens have engaged with town officials. That includes the Board of Finance that have received emails and petitions from us. So you kind of know the history. But I think the key things that I would point to is, the Board of Selectmen meeting back in December and the Board of Police Commissioners meeting back in December. And if the Board of Finance has not watched those videos, you should watch those videos. There were various concerned citizens that articulated the very points that Linda just articulated very well and in their own words, and told their own stories about this problem. And the one clear takeaway, I think, from those meetings is that there is fear, frustration, and anger that has gripped our community about this topic of car thefts and car break-ins. And nobody in Madison should have to live this way, and it's not a good look for the town. And in addition to those meetings, as various people in this room know, Peggy's there, Jean's there, a group of us met with selected town officials back in early December, and then finally there was a petition that we submitted on November 30th. Copy went to the Board of Finance. That talked about this topic of public safety. And in our view, this is unprecedented in the town's history, because I don't think there's ever been a petition about public safety. And at its heart, as you all recall from that petition, it's a call to action. Now, that petition was signed by 277 people from across Madison, so this is a town-wide issue. Let me segue to something that Ed Dowling said. Ed Dowling, obviously being chair of the Board of Police Commissioners, in assessing the current situation, the rash of car thefts and car break-ins. He characterized it as being a watershed moment that requires hardening the target. And I'm going to bring this all back to the Board of Finance in a second, so just bear with me. And so what we understand is that the Board of Police Commissioners and Chief Drum have developed a comprehensive game plan to deal with this threat. And they're going to be asking for funding in connection with two things. The first is what you're going to be talking about tonight, which is a special appropriation for implementing certain technology-related solutions, namely license plate reading cameras that will be discussed here tonight, and that were discussed with the Board of Selectmen back on December 18th. And secondly, as Linda alluded to, hiring more police officers, increasing the budget to do that, to increase the police presence in vulnerable neighborhoods and elsewhere as needed across town. And that will come obviously as part of the normal budgeting process as we understand it. That's not on the agenda for tonight, but it's important that these two steps are all part of a game plan that has been proposed by the experts being the Board of Police Commissioners and Chief Drum and the Police Department. And what we're really asking for, and what we asked for back in the community petition that we submitted on November 30th, is for the town, broadly defined, the First Selectwoman, the Board of Selectmen, and importantly, this group, the Board of Finance, to fully allocate the budget amounts that are going to be requested by the Board of Police Commissioners and the Police Department, so they have the necessary financial resources to more effectively address this threat. And this threat is both to our safety and our quality of life. So again, stepping back, I've been kind of spearheading informally our community efforts in this regard for more than 2.5 years at this point. And I think I would offer two key closing observations for the Board of Finance to keep in mind. Number one, my personal belief is that this threat, this problem, is here to stay. It's not going away. And I firmly believe that it negatively impacts the entire town of Madison. Beyond just public safety, it could irreparably damage the town's reputation, and it could also hurt real estate values. And at this point, number two, I believe the town must take aggressive action. And part of that action is for the Board of Finance to allocate the money that's necessary to deal with this problem. So I would thank you for listening. I'd ask you to think long and hard about this. If you haven't watched the videos, as I said earlier, of the Board of Selectmen meeting and the Board of Police Commissioners meeting, where, those two meetings, probably close to 15 people offered their personal stories and testimonies, I would ask you to do that. And we thank you for supporting and considering our ongoing safety as part of your deliberations, both tonight and ongoing as part of the budget process. Thank you.
Jim, thanks for your input. A little remiss, there was a 3-minute speak, and I gave Jim some latitude, but I'll ask people to keep it to 3 minutes so other people can speak. Is there anybody else in the public who'd like to speak?
Yes, there is.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sarah Greenwood. Can you hear me?
Sarah, yes, name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Sarah Greenwood, 150 Middle Beach Road. I'd like to say that I agree 100% with Jim Ferenczi and with Linda. We've been dealing with this issue for over 2 years, and there really truly needs to be a sense of urgency in getting it resolved before somebody is seriously hurt in the town of Madison. There have been shootings associated with the car thefts, and I'm not sure why it has taken this long for us to resolve this issue. But again, what Jim just said, it will have an impact on how people feel about Madison. It will impact the real estate values, and they're not going to go north, they're going to go south. So I just don't understand why there hasn't been a sense of urgency in getting this resolved. The police have laid out what I think is a pretty good plan in trying to resolve the issue, and I too would sincerely hope that people on the Finance Committee and the powers that be vote to get that allocation approved so that the people of Madison can go back up to their lives and feel safe. There's no reason why somebody should be walking their dog at night thinking that there is somebody attempting to steal their car. I'm a senior citizen living on Middle Beach Road. There is no way I would go out and check my car to make sure that I've got something that I left in there. It would just have to be stolen. So we had a campaign kind of blaming the victim. You didn't lock your car, so of course they're going to come and take it. That's not the attitude. The attitude is we need to get these guys, and we need to do it immediately. Thank you.
Sarah, for your input. Anybody else in the public who'd like to speak? Sir?
Good evening. I'm Scott Gamberg, Gamber, live at 67 Middle Beach Road. I just want to echo Linda and Jim and Sarah. And I agree, my wife and I agree that this is a very serious issue facing the town. And I think there are a lot of people who are starting to become concerned. But I'm also not sure I understand why the statistics haven't been better publicized. Because I think if more people in the town knew the number of thefts, the number of incidents dealing with this issue, that there'd probably be even a broader outreach of comments to all the people in governance in the town. So I'm concerned about the lack of statistics being made public. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, for your input. Everybody else in the public who'd like to speak?
Yes, Kevin.
Go ahead, Kevin, name and address for the record, please.
Kevin, you're on mute.
Hello, I'm not Kevin. My name's Chris Tier. I live at 4 Grove Avenue. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. When I heard Kevin, I did not look for the audio. First, thank you for the Zoom. I'm at a conference in Florida, so I can't physically be there as I have been for some other meetings. So I appreciate this opportunity. My first visit to Madison was in 1977. My wife has come to Madison just about every summer of her life. And we moved full-time to Madison 3 years ago from the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And I've lived in Philadelphia. I've lived in Brooklyn. I've parked cars on the street. And I simply couldn't believe when I moved to Madison that cars were being stolen out of driveways. And we worked on Lock It or Lose It after conversations with Chief Drum. We've been in a series of meetings. Jim has led the way, but literally hundreds of people are profoundly concerned about this issue. And I appreciate the efforts that Chief Drum is trying to make. And I just urge you to please follow the recommendations of the Board of Police Commissioners, the vote of the Board of Selectmen, and get the chief what he needs to do his job in order to address pieces of your strategic plan, specifically on page 18, which have to do with a perception of and a reality of public safety, which I believe is the top priority in any community. So thank you very much for your efforts, and please get the chief what he says he needs in order to do his job. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for your input. Thanks for keeping it under 3 minutes. Anybody else from the public who'd like to speak? Name and address for the record.
Can you hear me okay? My name is Steve Hebner.
Go ahead, Steve. Name and address for the record, Steve.
Yep, my name is Steve Hebner. I live at 32 Woodlawn with my wife, Jody. So we are the infamous case of the car that was stolen on Sunday afternoon at about 2:30. So we had just gotten back from Parents Weekend up at Syracuse, went into the house. We walked in about 2:02, and about 2:16, the car was stolen out of the driveway. So I would be happy, as a lifetime consultant, I would be happy to serve as a business case and a case study as to how this would work. The car was fully loaded with Apple AirTags, devices, what have you. We tracked the car for about 5 days, and then we tracked our stuff. Our suitcases were in it as well. We didn't even unpack the car. It got taken so fast. And I'd be happy to tell the story, and you could use us to justify whatever. I apologize, I haven't read it in detail, but whatever technology is needed, and especially now with the AI functionality that go into reading toll booths and license plate tracking, what have you. But I'd be happy to serve as a case study and a business case and offer up any support that I can. Since the day that the car was taken, we never saw it again. There was never any trace or other than it was used in a 3-pass drive-by shooting in New Haven. We got a call from a detective on a task force the following Wednesday, and he sent us a video of the car, but we never heard from it again. So thanks.
Thank you, Steve, for your input. Is there anybody else in the public who'd like to speak? Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, you're muted.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That's Elizabeth.
Okay. So my name is Elizabeth Page, and I live at 16 Linden Lane, Madison, Connecticut. And I'm juggling 2 different devices here, so I'm trying to, there we go. And I would like to add another aspect to this. And my car was broken into and rifled, and it wasn't stolen, but things were taken out of it. And this happened up and down Linden Lane, and this started during COVID. The thing that I'm worried about is that there is so much frustration that several people on our block applied for gun licenses and bought guns. because they were feeling so frustrated that they couldn't stop it, and they felt that they were not getting the response from the police that they needed. Several people on this street were broken into and things stolen multiple times. So I understand their frustration, but my concern is, and I have a neighbor who actually is quite skilled in anything to do with guns, and he was very worried because he said, here they are, they bought these guns, they don't really know what they're doing. And all I can think of is that we're going to get sort of a vigilante thing going on. And we know that the criminals heading these rings are using minors to do these thefts. So all I can think of is some citizen of Madison will get upset and will fire a gun, and some 15-year-old will be killed, or someone else will be caught in the line of fire. So, it's not a question of, do we decide to allocate the money or do we not decide to allocate the money? If the money is not allocated, the problem is not going to go away, and people are going to take things into their own hands. And that's what I'm afraid of. And I also fear the lawsuits that will ensue, the media coverage of some horrific event in Madison. I don't want that. None of us want that. We want Chief Drum, who has made a very complete study of this problem and of the response of different towns around the state and the country, and has come up with a good next steps. We want to move forward because we don't want something horrific to happen. I don't want some child killed. I really don't. And I don't want someone caught in the crossfire. So I really urge you to take this seriously. Yes, there are many thefts that have happened down below the post, south of the post road, but that's because these are old properties and there's no room for garages. So people have cars, small houses and large houses have cars out in their driveways or in the street. But as we heard from the beginning, the woman who spoke, there are cars that are being targeted everywhere in town. And it's not going to stop with cars. We've already had break-ins in houses on Linden Lane. So I just would urge you to accept that this problem is what it is, and that unfortunately we're going to have to allocate resources there that we might want for other things. But this is a very nasty problem, and it has the potential to cause horrific damage. So that's all I have to say on this subject. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your input. Reminding the public to please keep it at 3 minutes. Anybody else in the public would like to speak? For the second time?
No.
For the final time, there'll be non-public information.
Gonna try Kevin again.
Kevin, are you there?
I'm sorry, am I enabled now?
Yes.
Yes, Kevin. Name and address for the record. Please keep it to 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Kevin Toner. I'm at 150 Middle Beach Road. I've been there for 25 plus years. I encourage the Board of Finance to endorse the recommendations of the Police Board and Commission. I'm for those who have history for the last 25 years, I'm the last person you would ever hear advancing the notion that we should spend more money, but we have now got to the position there where we should spend more money. The most fundamental obligation of the town is the public health and safety, and we've neglected it. We will, in fact, wind up with incredibly undeserved publicity for the rot that will come from this if we don't fix it. There will be unlovable, incredible outcomes that we don't want. These kids are coming in and taking people's cars and all that. So please endorse what the police commissioner has said. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for your input. Is there anybody else in the public who'd like to speak? For the second time. Third and final time, public information session is now closed. We have the new business presentation of the fiscal year ending audit, financial statements. Fiscal 23.
All right, good evening. I'm on.
Yes.
You're on.
Perfect. All right, I'm Mike Van Deventer. I'm a partner at Mahoney Sable, ultimately responsible for overseeing the audit for the town and issuing the reports on behalf of the firm. Joining me this evening is Lauren Messina. Lauren was a manager on the audit, was really involved in the day-to-day execution of our audit procedures. So happy to be here this evening to really provide an overview of the work that was performed, the reports that were issued. I'll provide some overall financial highlights, make our required communications, and certainly happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to attempt to share my screen to pull up the presentation. Just want to make sure I have that capability. Yep.
Good, Mike.
Okay, you can all see that?
Yes.
All right, just give me a second. It's for some reason it's not scrolling. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing real quick and then reshare and see if that clears it.
Doesn't work, Mike. Jean also has a copy. She can share it.
Okay, let's if we can do that, that would be great. All right, if you can jump to slide 3, which is yep, back one. Okay. So yeah, I'll cover the scope of work, the audit reports that were issued, some overall financial highlights, and then I'll make our required communications. Next slide. So as far as the scope of work, again, we did perform an audit of the town's financial statements. We performed that audit in accordance with both the auditing standards issued by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, as well as the government auditing standards issued by the Government Accountability Office. In addition, based on the level of federal and state funding that was received and expended by the town, we did perform both federal and state single audits. We also perform an agreed upon procedures on the end of school year reports that are filed by the school district with the State of Connecticut Department of Education. Next slide. In addition to those attest services, we do perform some non-audit services for the town. So we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements, the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, the schedule of expenditures of state financial assistance, and related notes. We also assist in converting the town's governmental fund financial statements to the government-wide financial statements. In order for us to be able to perform those services and remain independent of the town, management is required to ultimately oversee those services and accept responsibility for them. And again, Stacy Nobitz, as the Director of Finance, has accepted responsibility for those services. Next slide. We do issue a number of reports in connection with our audit report. The main report is the report on the financial statements. We did issue unmodified opinions on the town's financial statements. Again, we do issue an unmodified opinion when we've concluded that the financial statements have been presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, and that is as established by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. I do like to point out that our opinion does provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from a material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud. We do not provide absolute assurance. We do not test every transaction. We do utilize sampling. There are estimates included in the financial statements, and therefore we cannot provide absolute assurance. In addition to the report on the financial statements, we do issue a separate report on compliance and on internal control over financial reporting. In this report, we do not actually express an opinion on the town's compliance with laws and regulations or on the effectiveness of the town's internal controls. Essentially, during the course of performing our procedures over the financial statements, if we become aware of a material non-compliance with laws and regulations, or if we identify what we consider to be a significant deficiency or material weakness in internal controls, we are required to include it in this report. And we did not report any such matters. Next slide. In connection with the federal single audit, we issue a report on compliance at the federal award level. In this report, we do actually express an opinion on the town's compliance with its major federal programs. For fiscal year 2023, the total federal awards that were expended by the town was about $4.9 million. Your major programs were the highway planning construction, which was used to fund a number of bridge projects, and then the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. We did issue unmodified clean opinions on compliance. We did not report any deficiencies in internal control over grant compliance. We issue a similar report in connection with the state single audit. For fiscal year 2023, the total state financial assistance that was expended by the town was about $2.7 million. A portion of that is considered exempt from our testing. The amount that was not was about $1.3 million. Your major program was the tiered payment in lieu of taxes. We did issue unmodified clean opinions on compliance over that program. And again, we did not report any deficiencies in internal control over compliance. The primary compliance requirement that we are testing is allowable costs. Again, making sure that you're charging the appropriate things in accordance with the grant requirements. This next session goes over our financial highlights. Again, a lot of financial information is included in the financial statements. It's well over 100 pages. These highlights are really very high level, but certainly if we identified anything from a financial perspective of concern, we would include it in these highlights. The first slide goes over your general fund budgetary highlights. Again, your original budget did provide for the use of fund balance in the amount of $500,000 to balance your revenues and expenditures. Your final budget did include additional appropriations of about $6.1 million. That resulted in a planned use of fund balance in the amount of about $6.6 million. Your actual change in fund balance on a budgetary basis was a decrease of $685,000. So that resulted in an overall favorable budgetary variance of about $6 million. That favorable budgetary variance really driven by your revenue and other financing sources surplus of about $5.1 million. You did have favorable variances on property tax revenue, state funding, charges for services, and then significant variance on investment income as a result of the increase in the interest rates. All of your expenditures and other financing uses were approximately $892 less than budgeted. And again, no budgetary compliance issues were identified as a result of our audit procedures. Next slide. This slide goes over your governmental fund financial statement highlights. Again, this includes your general fund on a GAAP basis, as well as all of your special revenue and capital project funds. The combined ending fund balances of the town totaled about $48 million, which was an increase of about $10.4 million from the prior year. That increase of $10.4 million was really driven by the issuance of bond anticipation notes to fund your capital projects. Of the $48 million, $21.5 million is in your general fund. That was a decrease of about $577,000 from the prior year. Approximately $20 million is considered unassigned, and that's sufficient to cover about 2.6 months and represented about 21.3% of your fiscal year 2024 general fund budgetary expenditures. Your capital project fund has an ending fund balance of about $22.8 million. The majority of that is restricted for capital purposes. Again, that was an increase of about $10.5 million from the prior year. again, attributed to the issuance of the bond anticipation notes, as well as the budgeted transfers in from the general fund, offset by your current year capital outlays. Your special education grant fund is also shown as a major fund that has an ending fund balance of about 16,000. That fund really accounts for cost reimbursement grants. So typically your revenues will equal your expenditures, and you would not have a significant reserve in that fund. Next slide. The American Rescue Plan Fund, obviously established to account for the receipt of grant funds provided by the American Rescue Plan. As of year end, the town had unspent funds of about 3.5 million. That's being reported as unearned revenues and will ultimately be recognized once those expenditures are incurred. In the current year, the town did recognize about 1.4 million in ARPA related grant revenue. And then all of your other funds had an ending fund balance of about 3.6 million, which was an increase of about 418,000 from the prior year. And again, those fund balances are really either restricted or committed for specific programs and purposes. And again, we did not identify any funds that had deficit fund balances that would need to be funded by the general fund. Next slide. The town does maintain a self-insured health insurance plan. The internal service fund had an unrestricted net position of about 4.4 million. That does represent approximately 4.7 months of your claims expense. Typically, we'll see these reserves anywhere between 3 and 6 months. In terms of your government-wide financial statements, so the government-wide financial statements include all of your governmental funds converted to a full accrual basis of accounting. The focus of the government-wide financial statements are on your long-term liabilities. As of year end, the town did report a positive unrestricted net position of about 3 million. In terms of your pension and OPEB benefits, really no significant change in the overall funded status of those plans from prior year. Again, the town plan has a net pension liability of about 11.1 million. That was about 68% funded using a discount rate of 6.75%. The police plan has a net pension liability of about 7.2 million, about 66.5% funded, again, using a discount rate of about 6.75%. The fire plan had a net pension liability of just over $1 million. That's 69.9% funded, and that's utilizing a discount rate of about 6.5%. So the fire pension plan obviously had a significant increase in the benefits as a result of some changes in the plan document. And the net pension liability does reflect the additional $1 million contribution that was made to help offset those increase in benefits. The town does report a total OPEB liability, so that represents a liability for access to retiree health care. The liability was about 16.7 million. Again, the town has not established a trust like the pension plans to help fund those benefits. So that is considered 0% funded. You're also utilizing a lower discount rate as a result of not having a trust in investing money in the market. Again, that plan is currently being funded on a pay-as-you-go basis. Last section is just our required communications. And again, we do issue a governance letter that does include all of these communications. The first item here talks about our responsibility under our auditing standards. Although we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements, they are the responsibility of management. Everything that is included in the financial statement did come from the town. In terms of the plan, scope, and timing of the audit, again, no changes in the overall scope of work that was agreed upon. And the timing of the work was conducted as originally agreed upon. In terms of significant audit findings, we typically will inform the board of any new accounting standards. So again, no new accounting standards were implemented by the town that had a significant impact on the financial statements. The financial statements do include some significant estimates and judgments. Those consist of estimated useful lives that are assigned to your capital assets, as well as discount rates that are utilized to determine your net pension and OPEB liabilities. We do review those estimates, and we did deem them to be reasonable and also consistent with what other governmental entities are utilizing. Happy to report that we had no significant difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We had no uncorrected misstatements. So any audit adjustments that were identified have been proposed and ultimately reflected in the financial statements. We had no disagreements with management. We did obtain a representation letter. There were no unusual representations that we requested from management. And again, I just give the board members an example. If we were testing a transaction and we were unable to adequately substantiate that transaction from documentation, we would inform, the board of the reliance that we were placing on management's representation with respect to that transaction. And we're not aware of any consultations by management with any other independent accountants. Again, if they did consult with other accountants, we would be required to be informed of that and then also communicate that to the board. So with that concludes the overall presentation. Again, happy to answer any questions that you may have. Also, I know there is a lot of material. So if you do have questions that may arise after this meeting, again, happy to answer questions at any point in time for the board members. I would just ask that you filter those through Stacy.
Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. I'll go left to right. Any Board of Finance committee members have a question or comment? John?
Yeah, I do. Michael, first of all, thank you for that comprehensive discussion. OPEB, from your experience, how many towns would you say haven't begun to fund their OPEB liabilities?
So we do approximately 25 municipalities. So obviously there's 169 in the state of Connecticut. And I would say probably maybe a third have actually established trusts to fund those liabilities. My recommendation would be to consider establishing that. There is some costs associated with establishing a trust, but essentially you're providing in another revenue stream to help offset those costs in future years.
Yeah,
thank you.
Matt, I just echo John's concern about OPEB.
Okay, Katie.
Yeah, I agree. I think, can you just, for those of us who are less financy, can you talk a little bit about what is, what has to be done to establish a trust? And what are the cost ramifications of doing that?
So I would probably recommend that you work with your actuary on that, because I'm not specifically involved in the establishment of the trust. So again, I would probably reach out to your attorney or your actuary.
Okay, thank you.
Again, it's probably a nominal costs to actually set up the trust. I would say probably less than $20,000. Again, easily funded by the return on the investments.
Sure. Thank you.
Bob?
All set. Thanks for your work.
Gene?
All set.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, and I'd just like to thank Stacy and her team. Again, I think this year we were done even earlier than we have in the past, and we held off issuing until the bond was issued in late December. But again, I appreciate all the Stacy and her team's assistance.
Thanks, Mike. We're cooperating.
Your team.
We're really nervous about this. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey,
Because you played nicely. Yeah, I know.
management discussion.
I avoided that room the whole time.
We have item 8, discuss and take action to approve request of the Madison PD in the amount of $80,000 for security cameras to be funded with ARPA grant approved by the BOS 12/18/23. Need a motion. Motion made by Katie, second by Gene. This discussion.
Yeah, I had.
Go ahead, John.
I had a question. A resident raised a concern that these cameras might not be allowed to use federal funds. I don't know if that's been determined or.
That was the system that we used that was paid for without federal funds by the town of Stratford and Bridgeport. We use that as to show what the camera can do, the capability for the company we're looking at. And of course, when the time comes, we request bids. This company is a state bid, the state of Connecticut, and it is compliant. It's called Record, which currently is in 3 of the major cities right now, some of the smaller cities.
Different situation, but
Pardon?
different situations, and this should be covered by ARPA.
Absolutely. So just for
May I speak?
Are we going up?
Go ahead, Matt.
So just
We're
for
gonna raise their hand, but go ahead,
clarification, in the
Matt.
presentation, just for clarification, in the presentation that you gave, you notice that we have the camera, the demonstrations, HIK. Now that camera that was in the presentation is,
Did we get this?
yeah, it was in our notes that was given. That's the one that John's speaking of, the National Defense Authorization Act. You're saying it's so the company is a different camera?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Any other comments, questions? You raise your hand, or did you get?
No, I'm raising both hands. So I totally support this endeavor. I agree with all the members of the public who spoke out. I also can empathize with the feeling of frustration, and I think that's kind of what I'm feeling tonight. Because, you know, we heard from a number of speakers this evening that this has been an ongoing discussion for 3 years. In the meantime, we passed a budget referendum or a capital referendum for a lot of money. So clearly there's a lot going on in town capital wise. We have the capital improvement program to plan for things like this. We've included ARPA funded capital projects in there all last year. All the capital projects that were funded through ARPA were listed in the plan to make it make sense, right? And to smooth things out and to make sure there are no surprises. Being the past chair of CIP and now on the CIP committee, it's frustrating because there are many health, safety, and security capital projects that are in there that either have to be pushed out or moved around to make things fit. So for me, my frustration is not this project. I think it's a great project. I think it will help the police department and it will provide added security to our residents. That is not the issue. For me, the issue is moving outside the process with this, especially since it's been known about for years and years. And I think we've had, having been on CIP now for 6 years, we've had projects before that haven't had a final price tag attached to them, but they've been put in the program as a placeholder until we get final numbers, and those numbers can go up or down depending on the estimates and the bids that come in. So for me, process is king. I feel like this is moved outside of the process, and that's frustrating because I think even though we're using ARPA funds, as I said before, there are other items that have waited 5 years within the CIP plan that are also worthy of recognition. So again, I am in support of this. I will be voting for it. For me, it's more of a process frustration.
Thank you, Katie. Is there anybody, other finance members who'd like to comment? Matt?
Just one thing. So I have definitely a support, and I just want to point out on the record that a lot of the community members that spoke out tonight are in support that you are trying, Chief, you are trying to answer the citizens' concerns. So as there's a lot of faith from what we heard in your plan, so we appreciate your efforts with this.
May I speak?
Yes.
Okay, I've made this question, a budget request for a period of time now. And I've taken the guidance of the people in various boards as to how they like to handle it. Whether it be appropriation or funded within the budget line. I understand that. I have a very large future capital investment also, which states the tower project down the road. What we do with placeholders. I absolutely understand what CIP is. I absolutely understand why we have it. I want to make that clear. There are a lot of people talking about it. I think what's happening, there's an article in Harvard Current also at times they talk about phenomenon crime that is going to these suburbs. And how a lot of folks in the suburbs really don't want to accept the fact that, hey, we live in a very nice town. Why is this happening? It's happening because it's where crime is going. It's not the cities. They're stealing cars. They are being used in shootings. It's all towns. Comparative analysis, and I believe the current printed one in the last month, auto theft and other crimes in towns. We're getting hit pretty good, but they're getting hit a lot worse than the other towns. We are progressively approaching this. We are putting people in the target areas. We have a brief presentation. I'd really like to show you because it has all the stats for the last 3 years. It won't take but 10 minutes to show it to you. But it gives those numbers. And I've had people, someone called me today saying, well, how come I don't see all these numbers on Facebook? I said, well, we're in public policy that we don't put it on Facebook, we publish it, and it finds its way to Facebook. But anyway, so it's a problem. And we've captured these kids, the juveniles. And I've said it before, juvenile justice is in crisis. Anybody you know who works in it, they're going to tell you they are maxed out. They live in houses, they don't live with a family, they live in an apartment, 4 or 5 kids, the youngest being 12, oldest being maybe 16, 17. Their mentor is in a gang. 2 of the people that we've had in town died in the last 3 weeks. One was killed in a crashing into the side of a building in Weathersfield. It shows the range of what they do, how far they go to commit a crime. Another one was shot in the drive-by market, the Waterbury resident. So they're coming from all areas. We have recovered some of our cars in New York State. Only have a car from New York State show up in our town. So I don't have an explanation other than where it is going in crime trend. Yes, there was a visual line. I told him this cookie as he got his government, he would lose it. He's been very quiet. I want to say that publicly. To New York, thank you for joining tonight. I just want to show a brief what the camera project is, very briefly, and what's most important of all this is the slide showing you the last 3 years.
I'm going to do this, Chief. We have a motion in a second on the floor.
I'm sorry.
To act on that before we just delve into anything else. So if there's any other questions for the chief at this point, rest of the board of finance members.
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstention, that motion carries. I'm going to go through the other items and then we'll come up with the presentation. Okay, item number 9, discuss and take action to accept a public health infrastructure grant amount of $40,000 for the Department of Public Health for public health workforce development approved by the BOS on 12/18/23. The motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Gene. Second.
Second.
Thank you, John. Discussion. Comments. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention, that motion carries. We have item 10, discuss and take action to accept the pending DECD Urban Act Grant amount of $500,000 for the school generator project approved by the BOS on 1/9/24. Is that a form of a motion? Second.
Second.
Thank you, John. The motion second, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, abstentions, that motion carries. I'm just going to see if there's anybody from the public who wants to speak, Chief, before review the financials. Anybody have any comments? We're still more.
I almost sent it to him.
Citizens' comments. Anybody from the public would like to speak?
There is someone who would like to speak on Zoom.
Go ahead.
Hi, it's Jim Ferenci again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Jim Ferenci, 47 Seaview. So if I understand what just happened, I believe you all just approved the appropriation for special cameras. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So first of all, thank you very much. You heard the comments from various people tonight, and as I mentioned at the beginning, comments in various previous meetings. This is an important first step to addressing this issue. The next step will come during the budgeting process, as we understand it, and the police commissioners and Chief Drum will be asking for additional things that will help support the public safety in our town. I can't stress how important both of these steps are. We will do whatever is necessary as a community to stay in front of you. We don't have to keep repeating this if you don't need us to, but we don't want it to be lost, the messaging to be lost, the frustration, the fear, or the anger. And so, again, I would ask, as I did before, and as we did in the community petition back on November 30th, please support the police commissioners and Chief Drum and his team in terms of what they're asking for to help make Madison safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for the input. Is anybody else in the public who would like to speak? Second time.
No one else.
For the final time, the information session is closed. Any questions on the financials for Chief Drum? That's the Board of Finance.
No.
Chief?
Take it away.
If you could just pull up the PowerPoint for me, please.
That's the camera.
Oh,
The cameras that are on like the Green Hill Road intersection,
Sorry?
the cameras that are on the Green Hill Road intersection, are those,
Those are just like traffic counters. They're
gotcha,
not actually.
They control.
I should stop waving at it.
Slow down. All yours, Chief.
All right, so my name's Jeremy York. I'm a lieutenant with the Madison Police Department. I'm going to give this brief presentation. A lot of it's, most of it's redundant from the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Police Commission, but we just want to be able to present it to the Board of Finance. So next slide, please. Okay, so the benefits of camera technologies, it enhances crime prevention. So surveillance cameras and license plate reader cameras can help prevent and deter criminal activities by automatically scanning and capturing license plate numbers of vehicles passing through specific areas. This data allows law enforcement agencies to identify and track suspicious or unwanted vehicles in real time, preventing potential crimes before they happen. And lastly, surveillance cameras and license plate readers are a force multiplier for all law enforcement agencies. Next slide, please. Camera technologies are a great investigative support for law enforcement. It helps us offer value support in criminal investigations. And with that is by documenting the movements of vehicles in and around a crime scene. Investigators can establish a timeline and identify potential suspects. And this technology can be especially helpful in cases involving missing persons, abductions, and identifying patterns of criminal behavior. Next slide, please. So with the benefits of camera technology, it makes law enforcement more efficient. We can quickly locate stolen vehicles that are in high crime areas. It's just more eyes on the road where it gives us an advantage in that. And that by automatically scanning and cross-referencing license plate numbers with databases, which is our collect the FBI databases where we can see if there's wanted persons, stolen motor vehicles, if a car is attached to an Amber Alert, there's a lot of databases that we can run those vehicles off. We could swiftly identify vehicles of interest, leading to faster response times and more effective investigations. Next slide, please. And lastly, it's an increased public safety. By monitoring license plate numbers, police departments can identify vehicles associated with individuals who pose a threat to public safety. This includes tracking down vehicles involved in hit-and-run accidents, Amber Alerts, or even identifying vehicles linked to individuals with outstanding warrants. Such capabilities contribute to creating a safer environment for the community. So now is the statistics. So the first one I'm going to get into is motor vehicle thefts. We went back 10 years to 2013 and we had one reported stolen motor vehicle. And then as you can see the last few years, but the biggest is from 2022 to 2023, we had a 288% increase in motor vehicle thefts in the town of Madison. Went from 9 in 2022 to 35 in 2023. Now the next slides will show you the crime mapping of where these incidents took place by the year. So in 2013, you can see the one incident happened up north, right at the border with Gilmore. If you can go to the next slide, 2018, there was 18 of them, and you can see where the incidents occurred. Sorry, I couldn't get the map any bigger with it. So it's just giving you a generic of where they are. You can keep going, 2019, or 2020, there was 31. Next slide, please. 2021, there was 25. Next slide, please. There was 9 in 2022. And then last year we had 35. So the next slide is showing crime statistics from theft from motor vehicles. This is someone entering motor vehicle and stealing possessions from the vehicle. You see in 2013, just like stolen motor vehicles, there was only 16 reported, and there was one reported stolen motor vehicle in 2013. But if you look in 2023, there was 59 incidents. The year prior was 39, so that's a 51% increase from one year to another. And then I also showed the crime mapping from 2013 of where the incidents occurred. You keep going. 2018, you can see it just was everywhere in town. Keep going. 2020, there was 62. 2021 was 45. 2022, 39. And then last year was 59. And lastly, so as a chief, you want to speak on this one?
No, I think you spoke on.
Okay, so that's the camera technology that we'll go through the bidding process, but that's the company that, the major cities, Hartford, New Haven, are utilizing, and they're extremely happy with it, so.
Majority of these obviously occur south of 95. It's convenient. Jump off, they right down here, go to the few minutes, so it's a major housing concentration. But I mean, having the cameras in critical strategic points, as many as we can afford to get, will be a start in that direction. We have it so they'll ring in the car, so the officer, it's 2, 3 in the morning, they have a car that keeps going through a point, and realize they're out looking for an opportunity. It's not every day, sometimes it's quiet as heck, it's not other days. Last week was a bear for us, we had an attempted armed robbery followed by a bad accident, followed by taking a sawed-off shotgun in the hand of a guy who was with his grandmother in Cedar House. So.
The presentation was great, and I appreciate seeing all the different statistics, and based on the comment from the gentleman earlier. Can that be placed somewhere? Is it on your website? Can we put it up so that people can access it?
Well, we publish the annual report that goes to the town. We also do an additional, much more in-depth annual report. And we file all the statistics for all crimes, basically after we do that in the police department.
Yeah.
So that generally comes out post-February. But I mean, these right here, we can put up here.
Yeah.
But I think what's going to happen is as the media watches your meeting, they're going to come make a request for those slides.
Good. Even on the police commission website, on their
Yeah, I think it would be
homepage,
helpful.
just to put it there.
Yeah, Matt had his hand up first. Lieutenant, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Matt. So thank you very much for the presentation. One statement, two questions. The statement is this is the statistics that you're putting on are very validating for a lot of community members that we've been seeing, making posts, making comments, the group that's here tonight. So thank you for showing that. And it's very stark to see those numbers. First question is strategically, without asking you for strategy, but are you going to try to concentrate cameras south side of town, or will there be some type of protection the north side of town along 79?
They're going to the guesstimate at this point, we know it's up to get the bids. Probably going to have enough cameras. We'll start with more than 10, maybe 12, and put them in critical points both north and south. Entry points into the town, top of 2 ramps.
Costs. Do you know, based on what you've seen so far with this technology, obviously we're approving an outlay for the acquisition or for the bidding, but are there ongoing costs for maintenance or subscription services?
You have a base camera cost approximately $1,400 up to almost including all in, meaning the cloud, everything, service replacement of the cameras. So you're talking up to $5,000 per camera. I have to believe that it's going to be similar to what we do with our body cams and our car cameras, where it circulates within a 2-year cycle, and they upgrade it.
That's what I
As the
figured.
technology curve changes. Again, it's American-based company.
Katie?
So Matt stole my finance question, but, and I appreciate you going through all of this, for the Board of Finance. So my question is less about a finance situation, but more about, with any technology, there's a plus and a minus. And so how, suspicious activity, like, are you gonna, so for example, when I had little kids and I needed them to sleep, I would drive in circles around Middle Beach Road to get them to sleep. Is that a potentiality for somebody to get pinged and pulled over? How exactly is that?
I think it's an officer's discretion. we kind of got a pattern to how these folks operate. You know, they do come in. Well, I mean, I think what the gentleman illustrated happened in the afternoon, where they walked up on him and 2 in the afternoon. By the way, that happened to my sister-in-law in Milford. They walked up on her and they had a weapon. They took her car and was using a shooting. And into Britain, and she got her car back with shell casings. I don't know how that happened. But, it does. No, I think the officers, we look for, like the neighborhoods off Seaview, the neighborhoods off Neck Road, using those as an example, up towards Princess Drive, north of the Circle, into Dorset. You know, we know the patterns. We know the officers generally are out there. They see the same people going to work in the morning. I think that to be safe, one is not going to be. It's not going to invade privacy. It's going to be in a public place. It needs to show the roadway. Not going to show homes. It's not going to show somebody's windows. That's not it at all. A lot of it ties to the dispatch. Dispatch brings it up. They see it also. They can make an assertion. Is this worth doing a secondary meaning? Let's look at this car. When it pays for the officer who may be at the Pines, he's going to start moving south. The other officer is probably on one somewhere move towards where this car is. They've sat in the, I use the term sat in the dark, and they've basically last group that we captured. They went over into Clinton, we boxed them in, and that's how we got them. The car came pick them up, we got that person too. Only to have them in Branford doing the crime 2 weeks later. So.
Well, the privacy thing is what I need to hear.
Yeah, so I think it's a discretionary on the police officer. I think I like to think they all have that sixth sense. They can figure it out. It's either the person delivering papers at 2 or 3 in the morning, or bringing the bakery goods into some of the restaurants, etc.
Chief, just to add, when vehicle is most likely, they're coming in with a stolen motor vehicle that was stolen out of New Haven. So a lot of times is they'll steal a car from Madison and they left us the car that was stolen in Fairfield.
I see.
So now with that surveillance technology, we're gonna get a hit off that saying, we call it a file 1. It's a stolen motor vehicle out of Fairfield. That's gonna alert us to say, oh, that's not the woman that's driving and trying to get her kids to go to sleep. All right, we have a stolen car that was reported at Fairfield.
That's Kate, go get it.
Exactly.
So that's gonna raise a lot more suspicion than someone driving around trying to get their kids to go to sleep, so, yeah.
You want to take the kids.
Yeah, pull me over, take the kid.
I'm just gonna make a comment real quick. It always said water takes a path of least resistance, and criminals is very similar in a lot of ways, but I'm assuming if we do this and if technology works and it gets better, it's gonna be a message. It's gonna be much more difficult here in Madison. I think that's the message we want to send, not that we want to send them someplace else. And I think the other issue is, I've talked to some police officers and other judges and stuff. I think it's kind of very hard when these kids do get apprehended. There isn't a lot of recourse there, and that's, but I think my point of this is that doing something like this will help work and help send a message. It's just gonna be harder in Madison to do what they want to do.
John, I just want to so our state legislators have made it very hard and for us, and we appreciate the work that you're doing, trying to get around this.
Thank you.
I think that's the other piece for me, for everyone who's coming out and doing state legislation. That's the next piece of this that we really need to put some pressure on, that give the officers the power they need and take these kids off their streets. That's
And
really,
get them the mental
and
health.
get them
Like
the
that,
mental
it'll
health,
help the
right.
kids too, because right
They're
now.
living in apartments. They're not. I mean, we really have to be able to identify and
Yeah,
get
we're
them
also
off
gonna
the
have
streets.
an
Yeah.
increase in population. 251 possible living units, expand within the next 18 months with another one across the street. Some of them are multiple apartments. The application of public safety, police, fire, and ambulance is going to increase. May I ask a budget question? Okay, so I did put it.
I put it once. You're gonna get your chance, Chief, don't worry.
I'm hoping that this it's going to be very successful, and so I did do additional cameras, which I'll move that to for further discussion to CIT, and then what we'll do is it's just something we'll build over 5 years, and as it increases or we replace, almost like radio equipment, etc.
I'd like to see how, when we get these, I know we gotta go through the bid process, they also put them in place and the effect that they have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Is there still, sorry, last thing.
Oh,
Is there
Katie.
still a campaign for, for the lock it, lock your car situation? I mean, I know you had said in the past that that did have an effect. It's not clearly, the only thing.
Some people. Some of the folks from that, see if you want to particular son, he donated his time to advertising, put that together, was very successful because I didn't understand why people leaving the key fobs, all their electronic equipment in the car. So I think that once we put the cameras up, followed by the message boards, one north, one south, just information. A lot of other towns have, maybe next door, I'll walk up to Madison signs. I think yes, the answer to the question is.
Any other comments? Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?